We've all seen the documentaries where they talk about how detrimental global warming is for the environment. This image, taken from the 2017 Netflix documentary titled Chasing Coral, directed by Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Jeff Orlowski, depicts an underwater view of the coral reef. This reef is an entire ecosystem which is in danger of extinction due to human actions which cause global warming. It's a tragic situation, really, where we know how detrimental global warming is for the environment, yet we don't know how to stop it. This pie chart from the United States Environmental Protection Agency shows all the economic sectors which contribute most to greenhouse gas emissions. This includes agriculture, commercial and residential, industry, electricity, and transportation, with transportation being the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Now, personally, I'm not a PhD candidate who's studying how to mitigate climate change, but I do know how to look at pie charts. And judging from this pie chart, we can see that transportation is clearly the single largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. So one way we can mitigate climate change is by switching to a cleaner form of transportation, namely electric transport. And one leading company in electric transport is Tesla. So today I'll be talking to you about the 3 reasons why you should drive a Tesla. First, I'll explain how it helps you reduce your carbon footprint. Second, I'll talk to you about how it has better technology, so it's a better car overall. And finally, I'll be explaining how it's good for its value in the long term. So, first, let's look at the problem that we have at hand, which is climate change. In a book titled Vanishing Ice, written in 2019 by senior research scientist at the Center for Climate Systems Research in Columbia University, Vivian Gornitz, it's explained how climate change will lead to a rise in sea levels around the world, which would, and I quote, engulf the world's shores, drowning many of the largest coastal cities, end quote. But how exactly does this happen? Basically, climate change, which is caused due to greenhouse gas emissions, leads to heat being trapped in the environment. When this heat is trapped, it is then absorbed by glaciers and ice caps around the world, which start melting and thus cause the sea levels to start rising. Thus, we can see that cities like New York, Los Angeles, Karachi, Tokyo, and countless other coastal cities can drown. Furthermore, it's not just coastal cities that can get affected by this. We've seen in cities with a lot of pollution, such as Beijing and Lahore, there can be a lot of smog, which reduces visibility. Other than this, in hilly areas, there's also much higher chance for landsliding. So we can see that climate change truly is detrimental for all and needs to be curbed. So one way to mitigate climate change is by switching to electric transport. In a study conducted by Associate Professor Dorota Burkhardt-Kroll and PhD candidate Piotr Folega at the Silesian University in March 2020, it was found that electric cars produce minimal emissions compared to cars with internal combustion engines. So it's clear that driving a Tesla can help you reduce your carbon footprint. Now let's look at the other technologies that make a Tesla such a great car. Firstly is its range. This is how far you can drive a Tesla on one charge. For an average electric car, its average range is 200 miles, whereas the newest Tesla has a range of 400 miles. Other than this, Teslas also have self-driving capabilities. This includes an autopilot system, which consists of 6 different types of camera, as well as it makes use of radar and ultrasonic technologies. Now this is important for safety, because as a human driver, we have lots of blind spots and there's room for error. But with technologies such as this, it reduces our room for error and creates more road safety. Other than this, it also provides convenience. For example, the summon feature in Tesla cars can be used when if you're in a crowded parking lot and you can't find your car. You just press a button and the car drives itself towards you. Other than this, there's also the self-parking feature, which if you're in a very tight spot and you're finding it difficult to park, you can just step out of the car, press a button, and it parks itself for you. In a survey conducted in 2016 by PhD candidate at the University of Waterloo, Murad Dickman, and Professor Catherine Burns, titled Autonomous Driving in the Real World, it was found that Tesla owners reported very high levels of satisfaction with their cars, namely the autopilot and the summon features. Other than this, the software in the Tesla cars also updates over the air. So although your Tesla car might get older with time, the software in it keeps updating allowing you to enjoy the great new features. Now, you might be thinking that with all these features, it might be a very expensive car. And although a Tesla does seem expensive at first, it's very good for its value in the long term. The first reason for this is because it helps you save on your fuel costs. We know that the cost of petrol have been rising since the last few decades and they won't be going down anytime soon. By switching to an electric car, you'd cut out your costs for fuel. Other than this, Tesla also provides solar panels, which if you install in your home, you can use that to charge your car to bring your transportation costs to a bare minimum. Other than this, the value of a Tesla also doesn't depreciate as much as other cars. In a study conducted by the automotive research firm IC Cars, it was found that the Tesla Model 3 had the highest resale value than all cars in the market in January of 2020. The reason for this is that because it's a newer car, it has more attractive and advanced technology. Furthermore, the electric technology in Tesla cars allows for cheaper and easier maintenance. For example, in cars using petrol, you might have to take it for regular oil changes, whereas in a Tesla car, this is not necessary. But finally, the most important way that Teslas are good for their value is because they help you reduce your carbon footprint. This is important because you'll be reducing the risk for flooding of coastal cities and other severe geographical changes. You'll also be reducing the risk of diseases which are caused by pollution, such as bronchitis, malaria, and many more. And finally, you'll be helping to save the coral reefs, which are a source of food and income to over 500 million people around the world, according to the film Chasing Coral. So, to recap, today I talked to you about why you should be driving a Tesla. I first explained how there's a dire need to save the environment and how driving a Tesla can help you do just this. I then talked to you about how it's a better car overall due to its technology. And finally, I showed you how it's good for its value in the long term. Saving the environment is all of our duty. But what better way is there to save the environment than by switching to a car that will absolutely improve your life? So what are you waiting for? Buy a Tesla today.